Hello everybody, this is Matt with Traction Powersports. Today we're going to go over our Polaris General, and this is going to be the same thing if you have a Polaris Ranger and you're looking to relocate that buggy reverse camera that these things have. As you guys know, it's a really hard thing on your side-by-side. As you go and throw these things in reverse and you look at the screen and the only thing you're looking at is the ground. Now, what good is that, you know? So what we do is we have our own kit here. The price is $119.99. Inside of the kit, you're going to get our wire harness. You're going to get a pack of dielectric grease, 2 T40 torque bits, 2 10mm lock nuts. Now these guys, you're only going to need these for your general relocation, but they'll come in your kit because the kit is a multi-use. You will get one of our cool stickers, a handful of zip ties inside of the kit. So this will be everything that you're going to need from us. On your side, there is going to be a few things. Obviously, a drill bit. You're going to need a T40 and a T30 Torx, a 10mm, whether it's a socket or a wrench on that side, a pair of side cutters to cut off the extra zip ties, and I like to use the Ultra Black gasket maker. What this is going to do is it's going to seal our hole that's going to go through the roof into the inside of the cab. And then also you're going to need 2 drill bits. The first drill bit that we have here is a 13/64, and this is a 1/2-inch drill bit. So these are everything that we're going to need to get this job rolling. So through this process, I'm going to show you step by step of exactly what it's going to take to make this job happen. So first thing is first, let's get this out of the way. Down on underneath the back of your box on your Ranger or your General, this is in the exact same location here. So we're going to go ahead. Actually, before this, let me show you the camera, and I'll show you what it looks like now and what it's going to look like after we're done. So once this thing comes up, not only can you not see much, but the rear cameras get extremely dirty as well. So this is going to help prevent all this stuff from happening. So once we're done, you're going to have a clear vision of what your machine's going to look like from the back. And the other cool thing is as you're driving, you can go into the reverse mode and you'll be able to see everything in your back box also. So if you got something back here that you're like, hey, I just need to check, make sure it's there, or you want to see riders behind you, to, you know, without having to try to look through a mirror or whatever, you can hit that reverse camera and see everybody. So this is going to be a great add-on feature for you guys. So follow along and we'll get going. So up underneath the back of the box, we're just going to remove, there's 2 Torx with on the underneath side. So now these 2 Torx, you are not going to discard these. We're actually going to put these back in, including the washers. So once this comes down here, and the nice thing is about our kit, it is completely plug and play. So right here is exactly what it's going to look like, including the washers themselves. Now the washers don't need to go back on underneath here. We'll actually use the washers for the relocation up top. So once this guy comes, just make sure that you're really careful that you don't cause any damage to the unplugging this. Sometimes you might need a little tiny pick if you're having a hard time pushing it in, which this one's gonna be a little bit hard time. So let me grab a pick and we'll make this a little bit easier. So something, you know, like this here, give you a little tip just to push in on this little plug right there. So if we need to push into that, get it to come out. Just take your time, and so we don't break that tab. These things are pretty tight. There we go. So now once this comes off from here, we'll get this cleaned up as well. Now this is where on your general wise, as this rear camera came off exactly like this. So the way that this is actually going to get bolted, we don't have to remove this rear camera. Now, if you have a Polaris Ranger and you're going to be doing this relocation kit on there, which we'll also do a video on, we would have to pull this camera out of the lens. We'll have to put a chafe mark on the opposite side of this, because this mount would end up getting put on like this on a Ranger. And on the General, the way that we're going to do this, exactly taking it off here. Once we relocate this, we're going to use all of the same stuff, and we're going to go right here with it. So this guy is going to set very nice and neat, and you can see it actually sits absolutely perfect. So there's no extra money or modifications that we need. When we designed this relocation, you know, we try to make it as simple and easy as possible and most affordable for everybody. So without you spending, you know, a bunch of extra money, just buy our extension harness and a few other things in the kit, and you know, follow the video and we'll continue going. So now our next step is to take this guy here and get our 2 holes put up top. So that's where we need our smaller drill bit, because this is the next step before we would end up putting in the hole. So which we'll do that after this. So what we'll do is our 2 screws that we're going to put underneath the box, we're going to take our washers, because we're going to use these on the nut side when it goes back up. So put your drill bit in here. You will have to be able to get into the back of your box. Just try to be careful on these, you know, of putting down the tailgate and putting the weight on the tailgate in these straps, because these things are not meant to hold a bunch of weight. So I always try to climb into these off from the tire onto the side. It's usually best, that way you're not going to find yourself on the floor. So up on the top of this guy, we're going to find our spot, which, you know, this thing is going to set pretty well centered by itself. So I usually just pull this off, because we don't really need that in our way right at the moment, because we're just trying to find the center spot. And what's nice is the way that this groove is, and this rear bows out, this is going to sit. You'll feel it. I mean, you can't go left or right. It is completely centered on there. So there's no measurements that you need that's special on here. So literally just grab this, hold it tight, take your drill bit on each side, go right to your factory holes, and just on each side give yourself your little tiny starters. Pull that back out of the way, and then just finish drilling your holes. So after those are drilled, just make sure that everything's cleaned up nicely. Okay. So now what we'll do is just make sure everything sets in good. Now you could, you know, go a little bit looser with the holes, but I don't recommend it, just because you don't really want this thing to be slopping around in there. So with this, and then once we tighten these screws down and through our mount, everything will set. I mean, just really, really nice. So the next step that we'll end up doing, these guys are just lightly seated into here. because we know that this guy, when it gets mounted in here, our hole's going to go in through here into the cab. But you don't just want to drill it from the outside. I actually go on the inside. I start my pilot hole on the inside so I can see exactly where it's going to come through, because there is a metal bracket inside of here, and then you got a cross frame piece. So if you just drill a random hole, you might not get it just right. So before we drill that 1/2 inch hole, I go on the inside. You want as much length on this drill bit as possible because it kind of dishes in. We'll drill a little tiny pilot hole out, then we'll take our 1/2 inch drill bit and then finish drilling our hole all the way through, and that'll allow our wiring on the back of this camera to feed right through just nicely. And then this will set in there. We'll actually silicone up and around this, and it'll give it a really nice clean finish, and I'll also seal it back off to prevent water. So let's go ahead and hop in the inside of this guy and drill that pilot hole. I did remove the inside seats already. Just makes it easier, you know, versus trying to climb over the seat stuff. Gives you more room in the inside of the cab. Again, you don't absolutely have to, but just makes it easier. So in the inside of here, grab my light, you can see. So this is where it kind of dishes back. So you see up here how far this is, and then the metal bracket that holds this roof on. So this is where we need as much length on this drill bit as possible, just to start our pilot hole up top where that crease comes. So once you get that pilot hole started, then you'll know where your 1/2 inch drill bit will be able to come through. Once we get that hole done, we'll go back in the inside, or back to the outside from the inside. Check that hole, and then we'll drill our 1/2 inch hole all the way through. So, which I have a little tiny knob up here because my drill bit wasn't long enough to reach, so I was able to go just enough, so I got just kind of a little dent right here that I can feel. So perfect. So we got our hole drilled inside there. So now we're going to do our 1/2 inch guy for our larger hole. So just go right back to that same. So as this goes, the hard thing is it's kind of on an angle, that slant. So once you get that hole started, go really easy so you don't pop it back through the top of the roof. Just a little bit, just like that. Now, what that'll do is this will allow a really nice clearance, and you can see it's still pretty tight on there. So even with the 1/2 inch hole, so you just kind of want to give it a little wiggle, and it'll seat right in there just the way it needs to. So it'll end up pretty nicely in the end of this. So let me hop down and take care of my drill bits here, and let's grab our stuff to put a little bit of silicone on this, get our mount mounted in here. Then the next thing is running our wire down, tying it in, and this job's done. So this is a pretty easy conversion. This is something that'll probably take you within an hour, your first time doing one. Then from there, you can knock these things out pretty quick. So even if you're a dealer looking to, you know, give your client a really good experience and something that they're actually going to use, you know, like a window top or rear panel when you're selling a brand new unit, this is something you should be selling these guys every time. They're going to thank you, you know, for the little bit of money it charges and an hour of labor to install it. Man, it's a no-brainer. You know, this should have been something done at the factory, but instead they gave us an option to make a good accessory out of it. So Okay, so in there we got our ultra black, our T40, our 10 millimeter. I have our mount inside of there already. You are going to want a pair of your side cutters to cut off that holder, and then our bolts, washers, all that good stuff. So that's already in here. Our nuts are already pre-started. So the best thing to do here is just go ahead and pop these guys down. Yes, you can use an impact. Do not recommend it with this being plastic. You just don't want to damage it, you know. So just take the few extra resolutions on the old wrist pumps and tighten her down, you know. Let's do it right and not cause any problems. Especially in older machines that's sun faded, things like that, been out in the elements. I mean, you could crack this this plastic. So doing it this way is going to secure and give you a nice finish product. So, and these are factory torques. So this isn't anything that wouldn't be used on this machine from the factory. So you know, this is something that, you know, the T40 torque is very common on this machine. So this this overall fit and finish is going to be as close to stock as possible. So, all right. So now that these guys are down here, go ahead and cut this off. Let's go ahead and let's feed that into the inside of the cab. Now you're going to see right here that 1/2 inch drill bit where this guy stops, and it pretty much fills in that 1/2 inch hole. Okay, you can wiggle it in there and it is tight. So what I like to do is I use that as my filler. We're going to take a little bit of our ultra black. We're going to just add a little bit right to the outside of this, a little bit into the inside of it, and that's sealed. That's waterproof. That's not going anywhere. You know, so then once this guy is inside of here, everything's blocked off. So you shouldn't have any dirt, you know, nothing that's going to get into that area or water, especially with how tight those are anyways. And what's nice is if you're going to add, you know, a rear light bar that you want to mount on top, you can still run your strip lights. You can put your side, you know, reverse lights on here, whatever, with this kit. So this isn't going to be in the way of anything. This is a quick and easy, you know, little accessory. So let's go ahead and that sealed off. You should look something in the area like that. Now a little bit again, if you want to put a little bit of silicone around these screws, whatever is left in your fingers from putting that on, just go ahead and wipe it off around those. Grab our 10 millimeter. And what's nice is, with these being a nice snug where I had to screw them down in there, only thing you got to do is just tighten up these 10 millimeter nuts, you know, lightly like this. And with them being a lock nut, they're not going anywhere. You don't have to reef these things down. Just double check, you know, make sure that they're both tight. And this is it. Outside of this guy is now completed. Let's just make sure our lens is cleaned off there. So now should not need to get in the back of this box for anything besides clean it when we're done. Okay, our 2 torts that went underneath the box. Let's go ahead and put these back in there. One of them, again, is going to be for your heat shield, and the other one was just the other side that held the bracket in. However, if you want to reverse this, put it back to stock, it's a very simple task. So you do not have to, look, oh, where did I put them torque screws? It's just unbolt it, remove the harness, put it back down in here, and you know exactly where all of your stuff was to start. So it's not going to hurt it to tighten her back up and put it right back to factory. So that's back in there. Now our harness, originally where it's at, we'll put some dielectric grease on our harness before we route that in there, but then this guy will just get pushed back and go forward. So let's go ahead and get our harness unraveled. Inside of the kit, remember, you guys have your dielectric grease packet. For this here, I'm just going to use my big tube here, but make sure that you are utilizing this, guys. This is going to prevent you from running into electrical issues. It's not going to happen today, but it's going to be down the road. A couple years down the road, lots of power washing, mudding, different things like that, dirt and grime. That's when these things start getting electrical issues. Just over the years of the maintenance portion, making sure this stuff is sealed off well. So let's go ahead and get the box lifted up. We'll get our harness undone here. Lots of length. So we're going to go right back to this factory connection. This is just going to plug right in. You'll hear the audible click on that. So you can just either leave this pushed in there, like what we're going to do, and then we're going to take that. We're going to pull this back along the harness. We're going to also cut off this all right, and then what we want to do is we want to follow this main harness up. This is very simple, guys. Make sure that you are always following the harness. Don't just run this thing willy-nilly. This is very important. Let's do a great job now, and that's going to prevent issues later. So let's go ahead and route this guy along this factory harness. Yes, it takes a little bit more time, but it's done right. Now, with this harness, we do give you lots of extra slack, and I'll show you where I like to tie off this extra slack inside the cab. So nobody sees it, and then if you do, have an accident, something happens, you got to, splice or do something, at least you have it. So as we follow this harness down, your belt exhaust underneath your fuel rail here, we're going to just follow the harness right along that. And then we will end up zip tying this. so it all stays right back in its place. That runs down. So the harness, when it runs down through this ductwork, it's going to be a little bit hard to see, but as you follow it down, then it's going to cut over along the frame itself. So it's going to cut right over along this, or it'll be your grounds and stuff. Then as it cuts over, right over this, which will tie it in, and then it comes right up right next to your air box, and then your intake right here. You're going to go right along that to your main harness, and then from there we're going to come up. There's a little tiny cutouts in all of this, which we're going to just follow this all the way up, so it has plenty of room. You can see it, comes right up through there just fine, and right up there. Now you can see the harness now inside the cab without causing any grief to nothing else. So now from here, we're gonna pull this guy up. As tight as we can. Now here, this is the little bit tricky part. If you have a rear speaker box, the best thing to do is actually you can loosen up just these two screws, pull this down a little bit, and feed it behind there. And then we'll just follow this and tie it in. And then we'll ravel everything up behind this for an extra wire and put that in there. So let me grab our T40. All right, so here we are. We got our T40 Torx to go ahead and loosen this up. We can take this sub box right out of here. If you're going to do that, I don't recommend taking this plate all the way off. I think one of the easier ways to do this would be just to go ahead, take both of your long T40s out. Now, not every General has this. Again, it's just depending on what model that you have. So you'll have your two long ones. I put them in the glove box so we know where they're at. You can go ahead and unclip your speaker wire, and right here on the side you have a short one there, and be able to pull this speaker right out of the way. This will allow for us to bring our wiring up, back up and across to plug in to our rear speaker. Now, this is what comes into play. So after this guy is plugged in, you can do a couple things here. One is tie everything up. Second, what I like to do is go back down low first. We'll tie up our harness coming in, then we'll come in here, then we're all this extra room, we're actually going to tie up all of our extra wiring right back behind this box that we won't end up needing. So it'll end up looking something like this, and then our speaker will go right back over here, and then we'll end up putting one of the original clips that we pulled off from here. We'll actually put this on there, zip tie this wiring to that, and it'll give us a nice clean look just like that all the way across. So let's go back down to the outside. Grab these guys I spilled off. Let's tie up our harness down low.
kick your butt, there, kick your butt, there, kick your butt, there, kick your butt.
So we just finished up the install on this General, removing the rear camera from down low up to the top. Everything's wrapped in, as you guys followed along, how we ran and we tied everything up nicely. So now the final thing is to show you guys exactly what the camera looks like from the inside. So as we come in here, we get this guy to power up. After she walks through, acceptor. Let's go ahead and put it in reverse. Now you can see what the rear view camera looks like from this angle versus the prior one. So this kit, guys, is again something that will take you about an hour to install. Very simple to do. You need this kit, get with us at Traction Powersports, tractionpowersports.net. Drop a comment section in the comment box down below if you guys have any questions on what's going on or have any walkthrough stuff with this kit. Again, Traction Powersports, tractionpowersports.net.